The start of the 2015 NFL regular season is right around the corner, and for many fans, that means one thing: the return of fantasy football. But as millions across the nation get set to draft their teams, another type of fantasy sports league is exploding in popularity.
The Fantasy Sports Hall of Fame presents former accountant Derek Bradley. DraftKings One Day Fantasy Football took him from a guy with holes in his underpants to a guy with bikini models in them. How do they do it?
They're called daily fantasy websites such as DraftKings and FanDuel.com, which has a distribution marketing partnership with CBS Sports Digital. Such sites attract players by promising cash payouts, but that raises some serious questions. Joining us is Mike McCarthy, a contributor to the Sporting News and Sports Illustrated and a 25-year veteran of covering the business of sports. Mike, good morning.
Good morning.
How exactly are these daily leagues different?
Well, back in the old days when you played fantasy sports, it would take an entire season to play out. A lot of times you wouldn't get the players you want, or if the players you had got injured, you were basically out of the money. Now you can get the players you want the same day and get paid the same day. It's exciting, it's addictive, and it's very competitive.
So is it the instant gratification? Is that why there's such a boon in all this?
Yeah, it's like fantasy sports on crack. You get instant gratification, you get the players you want, you get paid the same day, and then you move on.
The Fantasy Sports Trade Association, through states, quote, surveys continue to show fantasy sports players do not show the negative compulsive behaviors associated with gambling. But when you look at this, it looks like gambling.
Yeah. To me, they're splitting hairs. I mean, to me, if you bet on a sporting event and you count up your money at the end of the day, to me, that's sports betting. Now, they're true that you haven't seen the kind of horror stories yet of people whose lives have been ruined by daily fantasy sports. But remember, this industry is basically only about 2 years old. It's been around before that, but that's when it really took off. It reminds me a bit of the 90s when these computer poker sites came out,
right,
and you had kids in college running up $50,000 debts while they're sitting around in their dorm room. I mean, if they don't watch themselves, the same thing could happen here.
Well, you said poker, and what I found so interesting about why no one has been able to really litigate is this notion of skill. There is some sort of loophole, and I want you to explain that better to us as to how poker gambling is different than fantasy football gambling.
Congress became so obsessed and so worried about online gambling that they passed a law outlawing in 2006. But within that law is a huge carve-out for fantasy sports because they were defined as games of skills rather than chance. But the congressmen and the senators who passed that law really had no idea about daily fantasy sports. It really didn't even exist yet. And if you talk to some of them now, they will tell you that it didn't apply to this new thing. And some people even believe it might still be illegal.
Right. And almost all the major sports leagues, though, are pouring money into this.
Everybody's in it, except the NFL. NBA is an investor in FanDuel. MLB is an investor in DraftKings. And it's not just...
what do they get out of this?
Well, what they get out of it is they make fans more addicted to their product. If you're a fantasy player, you're going to watch the blowout game because you want to see how your players do. If it's a dog matchup on Monday night, you're still going to watch the game because you got to bet.
Where do you see this all 5 years from now? Because like you said, it's so new, they haven't really litigated it, but it's making so much money.
Yeah. Well, there's so many big players on it. I see it exploding. I think some of these companies could be 5, 10 billion companies down the road. But at the same time, if you start to hear some of the horror stories, like you heard with computer poker, the feds could step in and regulate this.
All right. Mike McCarthy, thanks so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.